Video blog number 2. Yes, I'm going to talk about a subject that I've written about before. I do write a hub or blog at Hub, and you can see that at blackwolf.hubpages.com. And I'm talking about a subject I've written about before, and that is the playoff system in college football. Now that college football season is over and we've watched the sham that was the BCS national title game, I'm not taking away anything from Alabama. They played a great game, and it shows that when you have a month to plan for a team, that you can properly game plan to beat an opponent. And they played a good game. You can't take anything away from that. They deserve that victory and they deserve that title. But they didn't deserve to be in the title game. They should have been playing in maybe the Sugar Bowl or the Fiesta Bowl or another bowl game. You can't take that away from them. But they did not deserve to be in the title game. They were not a conference champion. Several years ago, the BCS had stated that they will not put a non-conference champion in the BCS championship game. Too much controversy. They didn't win their conference. They don't deserve to be in the national title game. The only reason that Alabama was in there is because they were number 2. They were voted to be the number 2 team in the country. But they weren't a conference champion. That's where the crux of the matter is. The BCS title should be, and it's supposed to be, between conference champions. Now LSU deserved to be there. They were the SEC conference champion. They were the undefeated team. But what should their opponent have been? Well, there were 3 other conference champions that deserved to be there: Wisconsin, Oregon State, and Oklahoma State. Now, they'd beaten Oregon previously in the season, so we should take that matchup away. Oregon State had already played them, had already lost to them. Wisconsin, not ranked high enough as a conference champion. That leaves Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State was the number 3 team going into the end of the season. They had won their conference. They deserved to be playing against LSU. The BCS national title game should be a game between conference champions, not number 1 and number 2, because face it, Alabama, after the end of the season, they didn't play another game. LSU had to play a SEC championship game. Wisconsin had to play a Big Ten championship game. Oregon had to play a Pac-12 championship game. Even Houston had to go play a Conference USA championship game. Houston would also have been an adequate opponent because they were also a conference champion. But here's the thing: no matchup in the BCS title game should contain a non-conference champion. Basically, if you don't win your conference, you don't get to play in the national title game. And that's what the BCS had determined several years ago when they had some controversies about who was playing in the national title game. So let's get down to another matter. There's 121 Division 1A football schools. They are scattered about in 11 conferences and 4 independents. Now, the biggest name independent we all know is Notre Dame. Well, here's a solution. You take these 121 schools and put them into 8 conferences for football only, which means you're going to have 7 conferences with 15 teams and 1 conference with 16. And that means Notre Dame has to be in the conference. If you want to play in the national title, you have to play in the conference. Otherwise, we'll still have only 8 conferences for football, and these are football-only conferences. We're not talking we're going to take all these schools and combine them into super conferences for all sports. These are football-only conferences. So you have these 8 conferences. Each conference has 2 divisions. you have a title game for each conference between the two division champions. So now you're left with 8 conference champions. We have a playoff system. Round of 8, round of 4, championship game. It's going to add 3 games to the 2 teams that make it to the title game. But you're going to have a true national champion, as determined by a playoff system. The NCAA gets this right with every other sport. They have a playoff system. March Madness. Think how big March Madness has become with basketball for the NCAA tournament. Millions and millions and millions of dollars of television revenue. Me, as a sports fan, I would pay to watch a playoff system in Division 1A football. Division 1 AA, or called the Football Championship Series, FCS, has a playoff system. The national title is determined by a playoff system. Division 2 has a playoff system. Division 3 has a playoff system. Why not Division 1A? I'm tired as a football fan, especially a college football fan, of watching the sham that's called the BCS. Supposed to be the best matchups in college football for the biggest bowls. What it becomes is a sham. It is nothing more than someone's idea of number 1 and number 2. Let's determine who's the national title champion by a playoff system. Plain and simple. 8 conferences for football, 8 super conferences. If you want a shot at the national title, you belong to one of these 8 conferences. So that means Notre Dame, you're going to have to play in the conference, and you're going to have to play against the same schools year in and year out, which you already do, but they're spread out through a bunch of different conferences. Given that, you have 8 conferences, 8 conference champions, 8 conference title games. This is the start of your television revenue right there. People are going to want to watch these title games. Typically, first weekend in December. 8 conference title games. Then you have 2 weeks of playoffs, round of 8, round of 4. Give them a week in between those semifinal games and the title game, and then you have the title game. And college football fans are satisfied, because here's what's going to happen. These 8 conferences create 8 conference champions. You cannot deny the fact that who wins the conference title game is the conference champion. They've done what it takes to get to that point. By the time you reach the national title game, everyone will be satisfied. These are the 2 best college football teams in America. They're playing each other through a true playoff format. And when it's all said and done, the winner of the game will be a true national champion. Just like in basketball, just like in soccer, just like in lacrosse, just like in all other sports, the playoff system works. The team that plays the best wins, and they're the national champion. The other part of this is to quit ending games between Division 1A schools and 1 AA schools. If you're in the BCS, you don't play a team that plays in the FCS. Plain and simple. That victory does not count at all. You might as well not play the game. And what this will do, this will force schools to pick opponents in other conferences that are Division 1A schools. I always remember the old adage: on any given day, any team can beat any other team. And keep that adage in mind. But let's just take it back a step. The schools play these Division I AA schools for an easy victory. It's a cakewalk. Level of talent isn't there. Well, that could be true, that could be false. Appalachian State did it a couple of years ago against Michigan. Hasn't happened since, but some schools have come close. But what I'd like to see is schools playing each other. I'd like to see Stanford play University of Illinois, Nebraska go play Vanderbilt, instead of going to play Nicholls State or Podunk University of Idaho. You know, I love seeing Boise State play Georgia. That's a great game. That was a great game. Not only for the fact that it was a Boise State victory, but also it showed that teams aren't afraid to play strong opponents early in the season. You know, I'm tired of seeing schools go and play, you know, Fordham or Citadel or VMI. These are Division I AA schools. Level of talent may or may not be there. You know, how often does Iowa play Northern Iowa, and how often does Northern Iowa have a chance at a victory? Because it's hurting both schools in a way. It's hurting the losing school, which is usually the 1AA school, and it's really hurting the players of the 1A school because they're not playing against the same level of talent that they're going to play most of the season. And that's all key. Play against schools who you're going to play against all season long. And give these Division I AA schools, let them play against who they're normally going to play against all season long. In the end, everyone will be happy. But that's a side note. The real issue is the BCS title game, which was a sham. I'm not taking away anything from Alabama. Like I said, they played a great game. It shows what happens when you have a month to plan for an opponent, what you can do, and how you can play. But they shouldn't have been there. That's the key. They shouldn't have been there because they weren't a conference champion. And the BCS several years ago had said they will not have one opponent or two opponents in the national title game that aren't conference champions. Not taking anything away from Alabama, they deserve the hoist the trophy and be called the national champion. They played well. They did what it took to win, and they had a dominant performance. But the crux of the matter is they shouldn't have been there. There were three other conference champions that should have been playing against LSU. Whether they would have won or lost, we don't know. But they did deserve the option to play. Enough said. Put it in the Reader's Digest form. Take 121 Division 1A schools, combine them into 8 super conferences. Super conferences have a title game. 8 conference champions go into a playoff system. One comes away as the true college football Division 1A national champion. Good day, good luck, signing off.